everybody, let me introduce you tonight, Max, aka Lichemeister. Hi Max.
Hi Mathieu.
So as I like to do, I like to invite people when I feel it's needed to make interesting video for you guys, and I thought, since I'm discussing on a really daily basis with you, Max, I thought it might be interesting to share our thoughts to everybody, because we like to discuss before tournament, and we are playing a UB tournament soon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it will be our first UB tournament for both of us, so really excited about it. We don't know the level of the players, but I've heard that they are quite good, so it'll be interesting, I think.
Yeah, for this tournament, there is no surprise for you guys, since I will be playing the same list as you saw on my YouTube channel, meaning the Ogre Khan Wild Earth list. And Max, can you tell us what are you going to play during this tournament?
Yeah, it's so I'll play Vampire Covenant, but a kind of unusual list. I went for a MSU approach of the Vampire Covenant, so I will play two times Valkralax, 2x3 Vampire Knights, a Dark Coach, a lot of chaps, so 3x8 Dire Wolves and 3 Great Bats. And then for the Lords, I'll take the first one. It's the Unkillable, as we call him. It's a Lord, a Master Occultist with Arcane Knowledge, on a Skeletal Steed with Eternity Gem. So basically he got a 1-up armor save, 2-up in close combat because of Great Weapon, and for Fortitude. With, for the first wound, he got an Aegis 2, and he's immune to Lethal Strike and to multiple wounds, so it's really a tank.
Unkillable.
It's unkillable. And the other one, it's a Flying Lord, and his role will more be to go into close combat. He got a 2-up armor save and a 5-up Aegis. And he got, as a sword, he's equipped with Reaper Harvest. So it's a sword that gives you strength 10, but you strike against discipline with AP 10 divine attacks. And his purpose is really to go into close combat. And he got also the reroll 1 to hit and to wound to be better with his rolls. So that's a kind of unusual approach as a MSU Vampire Covenant army.
With a lot of points invested in characters, right?
Yeah, it's like 1,700 points in characters. So when you lose one, you really cry.
Okay, good. First of all, let's start with the map. So as you probably know, with UB Tournament, you know everything in advance. So we know our opponent, the map, the secondary objective, and as well as the deployment. So for this game, it will be the map number 9 with Frontline Clash, and we will be playing Capture the Flag. We thought, first of all, we would like to do a short map analysis, because there are some things that we would like to point out for this battle. The first thing that we noticed is this, there are 2 impassable terrain, and it's quite difficult for big blocks to move properly between them. It will be much more easier for an MSU list to move around these two impassable terrain, but it will be more difficult for big blocks, and this might have an impact for some lists. So for us, I don't think that it's really something problematic, but if you face an army list with big blocks, it might be very difficult for them to go through these 2 impassable terrain. And then the second point are the shadow zone that you can find near, for example, the hill, but as well the impassable terrain. I think you know that pretty well, Max, with your small bases. That's a trick that you often use, right?
Exactly, and more with my 2 lords, because one got Spectral Steed, so he got Ghost Step, which allows him to go through the impassable terrain. So it's really useful when you face such kind of map.
Yeah, it's like you guys with Ghost Step is almost a flying model without being one, right?
Yeah, almost, yeah. Except for friendly units, but for the terrain parts, it's the same.
Helpful. Then third thing, the 2 walls might might play a role. Because we are playing capture the flag, it might be useful for army lists who would like to play defensive. As you probably know, with capture the flag, you can always play quite defensive, protect your unit, and try to kill one from range damage and win the game without moving that much. So it's possible that some armies will use one of these two walls during the deployment to have a very resilient unit behind this wall and therefore be very solid and capable of taking charges. And then the last aspect are Max, the lake and the forest, right?
Yeah, for steadfast breaking zones, they can be really useful. For example, with my match, we will see that it doesn't play a lot of it doesn't play a lot of influence in the game. But if you face like a big dwarf block or something like that, you can expect him not to castle in the top up right part of the map, for example.
And maybe some side note from my part, since I'm playing trappers. I think there are only two or three train that I can trap at the beginning of the game, but foremost probably the hill could be a good piece of train to trap, or maybe the lake depending on the opponent's deployment, but there are not a lot of possibilities for my trappers to set traps for the opponent to take afterwards DTs. Okay, I will start speaking a little bit about my game. I'm facing a Demon Legion army with the following list: 2 Blazing Glories, a Vandara Scourge, an Omen of Savar, 5 Orders, 2x5 Sirens, a Titan Slayer Chariot, a 20 Succubi with the Malus in Agility, and then 24, I guess, Myrmidon with +1 to hit. That's basically his list. So 3 combat blocks, so to say, 2 pieces of chaff, and then some unit who can play and zone and go alone into combat. On my side, as you can see here, I have this MSU list that you saw already in multiple battle reports, with no big change. What I saw about this matchup was most likely two possible scenarios in this game. The first scenario would be my opponent playing the drop game, as we say. What is drop game? Is basically to put one drop after the other to see where your opponent is going, and in this case where the scoring of your opponent will be placed. In this case, I identified him being able to put 5 drops before putting giving any indication of the position of a scoring unit. So in this case, the Siren would be his first drop probably, and then I expect the Blazing Glories to be in the flanks, because they have an interesting matchup against my Hunters. And then for me, the fifth pose would be probably the Titan Slayer and Chariot, and after this he will very likely drop the remaining unit to start the game and avoid my Hunter to take really a lot of speed in the game and profit from their maneuverability during this matchup. Regarding counter deployment, obviously I will need my Keen Eater on the board for this matchup, since I cannot use the Tribesman unit to do as I like to do, meaning open the game, chaff, counter chaff, and so on. I will really need both Keen Eater to fulfill this role, so I will drop them quite early in this game. Then the Saber-Tooth Tiger, the Giant, would be my fourth drop probably, and then fifth would be the second unit of Saber-Tooth Tiger, and after this he will probably drop. Then I can basically counter deploy to have the matchup I'd like to have. For example, here, trying to use the Toughness 6 Hunter against the Blazing Glory, trying to use the Giant to counter a little bit the mobility of the big unit, who will most likely try to cross the board with the special rule from the Giant, and being behind the hill, I can not getting charged, and basically since he will be most likely in my 18-inch range, I will be able to make him test the march, and therefore probably he will not be very fast to go through this two impassable terrain. And then the matchup I would like to have in this match, foremost, it's very important that I will be able to zone a little bit the Vandara Scourge, who might cause me some problems. and the Auroch are a good tool for this, but I will need to do some wounds on him pretty fast, not to get into trouble, because he could be able to get to receive the charge from the Auroch and then kill me, because he has the rage rule that giant have, so he has a lot of attack with high strength. Yep, that's what I explained with this arrow with the giant. Second scenario, basically that would be my opponent dropping everything not to risk me taking first turn after I see where are his first units. With this scenario, he would basically concentrate his scoring unit on one side of the board. For me, in this game, it doesn't play a huge influence whether my opponent has the top of the board or the bottom of the board, because I don't think that terrain will play a huge role. Either top or bottom are not. It's no big difference for me. In this case, I would most likely for me put his faster unit on the flanks, his fast going unit on the flank, in order basically to maneuver in this direction. That would mean also, if you play like this, that I would have the possibility to put all my scoring unit in a safe zone quite far away from his big blocks, and he will be most likely not be able to reach my unit during this game. I expect as well Blazing Glory rather than the flank, the Scourge in the middle to zone me a little bit. I would basically counter drop by putting a rock on each side of the Vandara Scourge to counter a little bit his high mobility at the beginning of the game, not letting him any chance of going forward early in the game. And then my trapper, my first thought was to use the trapper to trap early a Blazing Glory and then be very aggressive on the side, but I think I will really need this trapper defensively, because if my opponent decide to go fast forward and chaff my entire left side of the board, in this case with the sirens, I might be in a big trouble, because he could come fast forward with the big blocks and then I would be under big threats on turn 2. I would have to check a frenzy check with my Auroch and so on. So I think I will really need the trappers rather in this position to block a little bit the siren, to trap the hill. That would be also something quite, not so favorable for my opponent. So I think the trappers would be much better on this side. And then I would also add a bit space between my unit on the left, not to get chaffed with a single unit, all of my threat on one flank. So I think it would be quite good to have my Auroch a bit more on the left in this case, and not allow him to multiple chaff me with a single unit. Okay, so what are the result of this analysis? First of all, it's quite clear for me that Kinitor needs to be on the board. I will need them probably as chaff or counter chaff, but I will need them to open a little bit the game, to try some things. And they are quite resilient, so not likely to die against Thaumaturgy, so I will need them on the board. I will try to play the drop game, since I need, first of all, to get the matchup I want, and secondly, to put my scoring unit as far away as possible, meaning in the other half of the map. In this case, the two impassable terrain are helping me a lot, and the scenario as well is quite interesting for me, since this matchup is not for me something very interesting, very positive. I would say facing big blocks of demons is not so easy. He has ward save and possibility to have steadfast and then have good counter charges with his multiple threat. So not an easy game, and he has a lot of mobility with Blazing Glories and Vandara. A spell selection, of course, target first Vandara Scourge and then Blazing Glories. The Scourge is flying, so not chaffable, leaving me not a lot of option to contain him. I will try to target him right away with Stride of Face, Hand of Even, try to play as well with the Wrath of God. I really need to deal some wounds on this model early in the game, and then he will be a bit scared to move forward, because then if I'm able to charge with an Auroch, it might mean that he would be dead, basically. I have as well some good range possibilities with my hunting spears. I have 2 of them. If I can get good position, which will not be easy in this game, I think, but if I can get good position, I might be able to throw 1 or 2 spears at this model, and then multiple wound D3 is not so good for him. Blazing Glories, as you probably know, they have high weapon skill as long as they are full life, so I will try as well to deal some wounds from distance to help a little bit the hunter in combat and maybe the giant. Killing the 2 pieces of chaff will be very important for me because I could get the control and the charges. As you know, if the Orok get a charge, they are very likely to win against a lot of opponents, and I really need to get this control of the board and decide the pace of the game, so to say. So I will really try to kill them, even if I have to sacrifice my Kineters. And yeah, if needed, and I think it will be needed, I will use my trappers defensively to avoid the first turn push, would be a bit difficult then, because I will try to avoid him, be very pacey with his scoring unit, big blocks. If I can delay a little bit the way they march forward, that would be interesting for me for this game. Max, anything to add? I think we discussed this together before, but in case I've missed something.
No, I think your analysis is really complete, and yeah, nothing to add about it.
Okay, thanks. Then let's speak about your game.
Yeah, so I'll face a Vampire Covenant, so definitely a mirror matchup, as we call it, but he got a different approach of the Vampire. So as I say, I play a really MSU approach, and he plays a pack approach. So his list will be 2 times 20 zombies, and then he got like 35 skellies, 30 Barrow Guard with a Court of the Damned that will probably be in this unit, 4 Ring Reapers, and he got like 2 chaff units that I didn't put on the map. It's like 2 Great Bats and 8 Wolves. And as characters, he got General is a Master Necromancer, a Master Evocation with the Necromantic Staff, and the other one is Lord on the Zombie Dragon with Halberd and Obsidian Rock. So the cheap dragon, the Flying Lord. So his list is really like pack with a lot of health pool, as we say, in each unit. And he got 3 times the Arise spell, so it'll be really difficult to bring them down. Each unit got at least 16 wounds for the Winged Reapers, and then you got like more than 30 wounds for each infantry unit. So a pretty hard matchup, but with a little mobility. As for my army, I got a lot of threats with high mobility, so really a different approach of the Vampire army. With this information in mind, we decided that the best approach for my opponent will be to do a bunker, because facing an MSU list when you got really a low mobility, it's better to be in a corner so you avoid to be surrounded in turns 3 and more of the game. If he has the up side of the board, we think that it's better that he bunkers on the left side, because on the right side he doesn't have enough space for all his units. All his units are really big and need a lot of space to be able to fit. So it will be better for him to have a bunker on the top left. And the idea of this bunker is to have at the far left the strongest unit that he have, the Barrow Guard with Court of Damned, so he can really, from this side on, can he look into the game and then really have a huge threat zone. And the other side will be protected with the other strong unit, which is the Winged Reapers, that have a higher mobility and can have also a bigger threat zone for them. And the last thing that we place like that, it's the Vampire on the Dragon, which is behind the Winged Reapers. The idea behind it is like that my Lord with the Occultism spell got 18-inch range for the Grave Calls and the Breath of Corruption, but the most important one is the Grave Calls that can, if lucky, really kill this one, or at least do a lot of wounds on this model. And if he puts the dragon behind the Winged Reapers, then he will be further away from my Lord. And if I want to approach and be inside the 18-inch, then he got an easy charge with the Winged Reapers, and that's something I cannot allow me. So that will be a good placement for my opponent. And if I should face something like that, then my possibilities will be to play with the mobility of my Varkolak because of the Vanguard and then the 16 march rate. I can be 28 inches forward on the first turn if I begin. And that should allow me at the end to be really at the top of the map and then cause a threat zone on the top of the map. And with the consequence that my opponent has to turn the Wing Reapers to look at this threat. And if he does that, then he might expose his flank of the Wing Reapers to other threats like the Dark Coach or the Flying Lord that are both threats that could be near the hill in the mid-game phases. So that will be a little bit the idea. I don't have a lot of possibilities because with a bunker, it's really like it cancels my high mobility army and I cannot go into a unit like a Beauregard unit because at the end I'm dead and he will have plenty of time to recover his wounds. So that's a game that I don't want to play. So that will be the first possibility when the opponent take a top bunker scenario.
What we saw as well regarding the position of the zombie dragon, that was our idea to counter a little bit the range of the Gravecall, but it's also likely that he will just play him in a more natural position in the starting line, but then it would mean for you, Max, much more possibility to kill him. So
exactly,
we will see
yeah.
if he has this idea to put him behind the Range Reaper, who could be a bit strange, but in this case, I think very effective to protect the zombie dragon.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't. And then the second scenario, so if he can do the bottom bunker scenario, I think it's a better scenario for him because at the bottom he got more spaces to put his whole army, but he got the house, which really make it a nice corner with the wall for both of his flags. So both the skeletons and the Beauregard will benefit from the wall. And then, as from before, he will have the Winged Reapers to do the cover zone around the house with the dragon behind them. So that will be, I think, the best side for him if he wants to go for a bottom bunker. I think it will be the hardest for me to face. So if I have to choose the side, I already know that I will prefer to take the bottom so as to avoid this kind of deployment. And against such deployment, what are my possibilities? First to notice is that I don't put my skeletons units on the left, so inside the forest. It's not because of the steadfast, it's because I don't want my scoring to be threatened by his units. Maybe if he sees such a deployment, he will change his mind and go really fast forward, and then I don't have enough time to move around with my small scoring like the boss skeletons units. So better put them on the other side of the impassable, and as we say in the first slide, it's really hard for such big blocks to go through. It's both impassable. And the second possibility is again the two Varkolaks that can go with Vanguard and movement really at the bottom of the map, and then try maybe to cause some threats here. But if he deploys like he deploys here, my possibility will be, for example, to be much more advanced with one of the Varkolaks so as to try to provoke a charge from the dragon and then prepare some counter charges, and that will allow me maybe to get the dragon in some turns.
Max, just a question. I'm thinking right now, if he's deploying like he does, so dropping everything on this bottom corner, don't you think that it could be interesting as well to have one of your Varkolak on the right side in order to move fast forward and then maybe go on the flank of the Skellies to cause some threat?
I haven't saw it like that, but it's definitely a possibility.
Could be a possibility. If you put the Skellies on the right, might be...
Exactly, because what I expect from him is like the Necromancer general will be normally hidden inside the zombies. So if I can go around it and then cause some threats, that could be something nice too.
But I think as well, if he's if he thinks about this possibility in the deployment, he will most likely then just reform the skellies quite wide in order to avoid you getting around the skellies, basically. And that
then,
would be it. So
yeah, and what means is like I cannot go into a skeleton unit because at the end he wins. Yeah. The other things that we notice here is like the possibility for my lord, the master occultism, to go around the house, and then thanks to ghost step, he have also the possibility to go through the house, and maybe he can find a safe spot here where no one sees him, and he can deal with his magic. Here, for example, with the placement of the dragon, it will not be possible, but who knows? Like in late games, if the dragon moves or if the dragon charges the Varkolak, for example, then it gives really movement to the game, and then maybe I can go around this. So that will be the possibilities we saw with this kind of deployment. And the result of the analysis, well, as you saw, the both deployment that we show you for the vampire army are based on the idea that my opponent's play style will be really defensive. And I got two means for me to know really quickly how my opponents will approach this game. The first is to see his spell selection. With Master Evocation, I can expect from him either to choose combat-oriented spells with reroll to hit, reroll to wound, -1 to resilience, or he will have a defensive approach with more missile and like the 1 wound, Hasten the Hour, or the D3 hits strength 10 against discipline. So that will give me an idea of my opponent's play style. And the second way I can have to notice, it's during the deployment. I got 4 free drops, so to say, because I have 3 times the 8 dire rolls and once 3 great bats. So that's 4 drops that I can put on the map without showing him really where I will be playing. And he got really less drops, as well, free drops as I have. So he will have to deploy pretty fast his scoring units and his big units. So I will have quickly an idea of how he will approach his game. So as we say, with a bunker play style, I don't have a lot of possibility to score. So we will normally approach a 10-10 game. I still have some ways with magic and maybe with late combo charges to try to deal with 1 unit at least and then get some points.
Especially since you will be probably finishing the game, because if he drops, he will probably most likely start to avoid you getting so fast. So.
Exactly. If he doesn't, then it's really risky because of the Varkolak that I will be able to put them wherever I want and do the Vanguard plus the first turn movement. So he will, if he drops everything and he wants to start, then I'm most likely gonna face a really tight bunker from his part. And then if he goes an aggressive playstyle, because it's always something possible. For example, I saw that his list, he got the banner of speed on his skeletons. So that showed me that normally he expects his skeletons to move during the game and to go somewhere. So maybe he might have an aggressive playstyle, and then I'll have to exploit my high mobility, my really MSU kind of list, and engage with multiple threats. That won't be easy because he got a lot of health pool. So that's really but the only way to deal with such units is really to go with multiple threats. At last I will have to be careful with my small scoring units, the 2x3 Vampire Knights, because they are kind of fragile. He got an Adept Occultism, so it's possible he got Breath of Corruption as a spell, and then he got also a Breath from his dragon, so that's some toxic breath that can really deal easily with the Vampire Knight, so I have to be careful about that. And for my spell selection, I'll most likely take twice a Hereditary, and then for Evocation I'll go with the 4 to have reroll to hit. And for the Occultism I will have some damage spell with Grave Calls that can deal, if I'm lucky, with the dragon, or at least do some wounds to him. And then the number 4 for the Breath of Corruption, that can also be a boost in close combat. And moreover, when you face a vampire army, that you have to play on the the combat resolution, the breath of corruption can really help you. And the number 3, to have the -1 weapon skill permanent, that can really help when I face such units as Ringed Reapers who got weapon skill 5. A lot of my units got also weapon skill 5, so I can bring them down to a weapon skill 4. That can really help me. And the last one will be the Hand of Glory to get a boost in Aegis save for the Flying Lord or for the Dark Coach.
Okay, Max, thanks a lot for this interesting thought regarding this matchup. Guys, I hope you really like this short analysis of both matchup. We would be really happy to do it again for the next game of the tournament. If you are interested, please drop a short feedback. We'd be happy to get feedback regarding this video. And foremost, we thought about a little game who might be interesting. We will put some screenshot from Max's game as well in my first battle report of this tournament with what happened. So what we propose you is just to put under this video in the comment section some expectation that you have for these two match, for example, result, what should happen and so on. We would be happy then to compare them with our actual games in this tournament. Max, thanks a lot. We talk together soon in the first battle report, and good luck for your game.
Yeah, thanks, you too. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Bye.